minute and I
Okay.
will transition. I'll stay on.
Detective, you raise your right hand for me. Or do you swear a firm testimony you're about to give this hearing is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. When this room gets situated, we will go ahead and go. I'm sorry we made you wait so long.
Well, that's fine. I understand.
Okay. Let me get your exhibits out. This over here. And I will put this right here. Okay. Detective Half, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How or in what manner were you contacted regarding Miss Phillip, Machinable Phillip?
On April 23rd of 2020, I was assigned a report of a harassing communication. Banu Mansi made that incident report. She said that she was receiving threatening emails from an email address identified as shapuva875@gmail. She said in the letter there was some death threats and things in the letter, and basically it was saying that whoever was sending the emails did not want her to date Jodish John, that they would prefer that Jodish John stayed with his former girlfriend, Kirantha, and I don't recall her last name. They called her Key. So I did a search warrant for the Gmail address that she was receiving the threatening emails from, and there was no name associated with that email address. There was no phone numbers or anything. It was just an email, a bogus email account, basically, that somebody created, it seemed, for the purpose of harassing Banu. I was, however, able to get an IP address, and I've learned that it was owned by Comcast. I executed a search warrant through Comcast and learned that the IP address was registered to a company like a postal store called the Letter Connection in Stafford, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, Texas. The name on that account was Joe Matthew. That was who the IP address was registered to. Through the investigation, I learned that the Letter Connection actually was once owned by Banu Mansi, and that her cousin Titus was in business with her. Evidently in 2018, Banu was involved in an accident in which she was hospitalized. While she was in the hospital, Titus took over the business, and from what I gather, it wasn't run the way that Banu thought it should be run, and they had a disagreement. Titus began to harass Banu to a point where in January 19, he was actually arrested and had a restraining order taken out against him, which went through the end of 2020, I believe December 2020. All of the emails were coming from the Letter Connection out of Houston, Texas, and I determined that there was no valid threat really to Banu at that time, as Titus was in Texas, or I assumed that these were coming from the Letter Connection. I couldn't say 100% because other people had access to that computer, from what I understand, in Texas, but based on the history, it appeared that Titus created this email account to continue his harassment of Banu.
Okay.
So that's how I got involved in the case.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as F40. Is this a true and accurate copy of the email that you received as a part of your investigation from that Shiva Puja 875@gmail.com?
Yeah, it appears that it was.
Okay. Is this the subpoena that is this the email that you issued a subpoena to determine the IP address that you just testified to?
To be quite honest, I received so many emails from them. It's possible. I was, It probably is. I was more interested in the email address, but yes, that appears to be it.
I tender F40.
Any objections?
No objection. Ms. Rubel, I will mention that for some reason what the lady, Ally in your office forwarded me has F39, and then it goes to it goes F44, F46. So it's missing. Oh, now they're, okay, it's out of order. Never mind, I've got it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, it was just out of order.
Okay. Did you receive, or was there anyone involved? Well, let me ask some basic questions. What was the complaint by Binu Mansi to you? What was the general issue that you were investigating?
The harassing emails.
Was there anybody else that was involved or was receiving harassing emails as well?
Not that was brought to my attention at that time, no.
Are you familiar with Kirthana?
Yes, actually, she, I made a timeline of things so I could kind of keep track of things. The Kirthana, who went by Key, and Jodish met me at the South Precinct. Jodish kind of interjected himself into the investigation that I was doing for Banu, and started just provided a plethora of emails and charts and everything else, alleging that Sheena was behind all of this. Key was concerned because she had been named in these emails, and she was saying that she didn't have anything to do with any of it, that she wasn't out to get anybody or anything. So I added her as a victim as well, because she was being called out in these emails as somebody that was harassing Banu, although she said that she wasn't doing that, and I couldn't find any evidence that she was involved in it.
Okay, these communications from the email address that you subpoenaed, they were sent to Mr. John, copying Kirthana and Binu Mansi. Is that accurate?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, so when you said Mr. John interjected him, he was actually on the email. Is that accurate?
All right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at this email. The emails that I based my search warrant on was addressed to Banu, not Jodish.
Okay.
Jodish interjected himself into the investigation, I think sometime in early June. And that's when he started trying to say that Sheena was behind it all.
Okay. Was there anyone else that was threatening Kirthana that you determined in your investigation?
Not that I was able to see, no.
Okay, I'm going to show you what I've marked as F41. Well, let me ask you this. Do you recall a Steffi Lawrence that you had communications and phone contact with?
Yes, I spoke with Steffi.
And did Miss Kirthana not allege that Steffi Lawrence was harassing her as well?
I don't remember Kirthana saying that. I know Banu said, and Jodish said that Steffi was harassing them. And I spoke with Steffi, and I was unable to find, nor did they provide any evidence that he was sending harassing communications. When I spoke with Steffi, he said he was trying to speak with Banu to, I guess, to say, warn her of what Jodish was like. But none of those emails or text messages were of a threatening nature. It was more that he was just wanted to speak with her.
Okay, I'm going to show you what I've marked as F41. Were you provided from Kirthana message exchanges from this phone number from Steffi Lawrence to her?
That was to Kirthana.
Yep.
Yes, I've seen this.
I tender F41.
Any objections?
Well, I don't know that he can authenticate this, Judge. in as much as it's not a conversation between him and Detective Half and any third party. So I don't know how he could authenticate the communication.
My response to that is that Detective Half received information as a part of his investigation. Some of that was communications from the alleged victims. And this is a document that is part of his investigation and his report. And I can get to, or you can, Mr. Taney can ask the witness about his familiarity with the phone number or something like that. But as far as a document that's maintained from a detective's report, I tender this as a part of what he had to review from for evidence that was presented to him, and then what he did with it as the follow-up questions.
Mr. Tannen?
Judge, on that basis, I don't have an objection.
F41's admitted.
Did you contact Steffi Lawrence at the phone number that's indicated there?
I did, but I would like to add, I have no idea. I do recognize this phone number and as a phone number that I spoke with Steffi on, but it's so easy for people to spoof numbers and change the way they show up. I mean, I can't say 100%. I did speak with Steffi at I believe it was that phone number. It does look familiar to me.
Okay. And you spoke with Steffi Lawrence, and he communicated to you that he was contacting, or your testimony was that he was trying to get in touch with Binu Monsi to talk with her about Jothis John. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. He did say that he had been trying to get into contact with them, but that he didn't mean anybody any ill will, and he had not threatened any of them.
So is it your testimony that you didn't receive a threatening message that was left for Kirthana or Binu, including curse words and excessive inappropriate language that was threatening in nature from Steffi?
From Steffi directly? Or
Yeah, it's a
from
voicemail
what
from
Jodish?
Steffi.
I'm sorry?
No, a specific voicemail from Steffi left to Binu and or Kirthana that was threatening in nature.
I don't remember that. It's possible.
If you did have that information, were there any limitations on your investigation as far as what you would do for prosecution within the state of Georgia if the perpetrator lived outside of the state of Georgia?
There was no means for him to carry forward any of this stuff from California. None of the threats rose to a level that I felt was placing people in danger if threats were made. And at that point in time, I don't believe that the state was going to extradite Steffi or Titus back for what would have been misdemeanor offenses at that time, based
Where
on
was
the
Steffi?
Where was Steffi?
I'm sorry, I just didn't want to cut you off there. I was going to ask, did Steffi reside?
California.
Where did Titus Thomas reside?
Houston.
Texas. Is that accurate?
Yes, correct. I'm sorry.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as F42. Did you receive an email from Titus Thomas indicating his involvement in threats related to Binu? Let me screen share and show you this. Can you see that there, F42?
Yeah, I received this, but once again, I don't know who's sending this. Anybody can create those names and send them. They can create email addresses and send them. So I have no way to verify if that was in fact from Titus or who that was from without doing more search warrants.
Okay. You had phone contact with Titus Thomas, correct?
I tried multiple times and left voicemails. He would return my call after hours. I did get an answer one time, and when I went to speak, the phone was disconnected.
Okay, so you don't know whether or not this came from Titus Thomas, but you did receive this communication during your investigation. Is that accurate?
I have no way to confirm that that was actually Titus that sent it without
But you-
executing a search warrant.
Your email address is dehaff@forsythco.com. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, I did receive that. I have no way to confirm that that was actually sent by Titus.
Okay. I'm going to tender F42 as a document received as a part of Detective Haff's investigation.
Judge, I'm going to object based on the fact that it can't be authenticated. The detective can't authenticate it. Moreover, its relevance in as much as it is an email from an unconfirmed source making claims which cannot be verified by the sender and have not been and cannot be thus verified by Detective Haff.
My response to that is this is an email that was sent directly to the detective during his investigation for harassment related to Binu and Kirthana, and he can authenticate any document that's a part of his investigation and his record and what he investigated or not. That's the admissible issue. The weight of the evidence or the content therein is something that can be cross-examined or otherwise presented before the court.
But
Oh,
again,
well,
Judge,
I'm going to let it in because it's part of his investigation. Let me ask you something, Detective. Who else knew that you asked Mr. Thomas to send you an email about specific things?
I didn't ask Mr. Thomas to send that email. Jodish took on the investigation himself and started just sending this stuff out to everybody. And he would call me and send emails with information unsolicited. So Jodish is the one that was requesting him send all this stuff to me.
So
I'm going to object. Hold on. Did you receive any direct communication? Yes.
Follow up on that. Go ahead.
Did you have personal knowledge? Meaning, were you copied on any communications from Mr. John to any other person during the investigation where he was requesting or soliciting information, Detective Haff?
He told me that he was requesting Jodish told me that he was requesting Titus send stuff to me.
Okay.
Like I said, he pretty much interjected himself into the investigation, which started out as a threat or harassing emails and threatening emails to Banu. Jodish took over and just started sending, like I said, a plethora of information, emails, text messages, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was just impossible for one person just to sit and go through all of the stuff he was sending.
Your Honor, if I can follow up or if you want to,
Sure.
I
No,
just
go
don't want to
ahead.
jump in. Okay.
No, please.
The information that was being sent to you from Mr. John was communications from Steffi Lawrence, Titus Thomas, and other communications that he and Binu Monsi were receiving. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
You testified that Jothish John interjected himself in the investigation, but was he not copied on or specifically sent harassing communications related to Binu Monsi and Kirthana?
What he said, yes, at some point he was. When I say interjected himself, when I met with he and Kirthana in early June, that's when he just started pouring a lot of information into it. And it just kind of took on a life of its own.
Okay. Is it
It took it away from the initial investigation of harassing communications to Banu, which was my focus at the time, was where that was coming from.
during your contact or communications with Steffi Lawrence, did he indicate or identify an individual, Sabu? I'm not going to go through a name, but that he had met with or knew of this individual, Sabu, that had allegedly been married to Miss Phillip?
I don't recall anything about that in the conversation.
Okay.
I was basically discussing the threatening, him contacting Banu and telling him don't contact them any further, that they didn't want to hear from him. You know, he said he was upset because in one of the emails that from the Shirapuva that they had alleged that he had killed a couple of people and he was upset about that. And I told him I basically just don't have any further contact with them. That was the gist of our conversation on the phone.
You said you had, what contact specifically on the phone did you have with Titus Thomas, if any?
None.
None. It was a phone tag. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, yeah, I think he was avoiding my calls because I reached out several times and he wouldn't answer. The one time he did answer, he hung up when I started speaking, and then he would return my calls after hours and leave a message for me late at night.
Okay. So did Steffi Lawrence admit to harassing Kirthana when you had that phone conversation with him?
No, he didn't admit to harassing anybody. He said he tried to call them just to speak with them, but he never admitted to making any threats or anything to them. And when I told him to stop, he said that he wouldn't reach out to him. He wouldn't try to contact him anymore.
Did Steffi Lawrence admit to harassing or otherwise contacting Binu Monsi?
Yeah, I believe that's who he was trying to call.
Did you have the opportunity to meet with Miss Phillip as a part of your investigation?
She did. Well, I did go out to her house to speak with her and try to find out what was going on. She wasn't home at the time. I left my card, and then her attorney called me. I believe it was a day or so later, asking why I was interested in her, what was going on, and I explained to him what was going on. Ms. Phillips did come up to my office one day, just kind of inquire. She said she wasn't familiar with anything that she was being accused of doing and didn't know how it came to that.
When you met with Miss Phillip, where did you meet her?
Out in the parking lot outside of my office. We were still everything was still kind of quarantined at the time.
How long was that meeting?
Just a few minutes, just probably 2, 3, 4 minutes max.
Were there any notes that you took as a part of that conversation?
Just that she came by the office and I believe she had I can't think what it's called off the top of my head. She just, the accusation made against her, she had that in her hand and wasn't familiar with what the allegations were.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to meet with Father Matthew Varkey?
No, I've not met with him.
Have you talked with him?
No.
Okay. Did you obtain any information related to the arrest of an individual going by the name Sabu during your investigation?
I did not.
Okay. Were you provided any information from the victims, Binu Monsi or Kirthana, related to any threatening messages or communication from an individual named Sabu?
Like, once again, I got a ton of emails and information trying to read through them all. There was nothing that I found that was of an immediate threat to anybody.
Okay, so if your initial assessment is there an immediate threat to these individuals to stop a crime? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, not whether a person does or doesn't exist or the veracity of an email address.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I have except for any redirect.
Mr. Tannen?
Detective Half, is this case active or closed at this point?
It's open but inactive at this point.
Cold case files?
Pretty well. Yeah, not enough.
Do you have anything that ties Ms. John to all these, Ms. Phillip, to all, boy, you should have seen the hands come up at that. to any of the emails or threatening letters or threats being made?
No, sir.
Okay. And what did you make in your professional capacity of Mr. John's attempts to interject himself, as you said, I believe, in this investigation?
Well, it seemed to me like everything in my investigation pointed to Titus. It appeared to me that Mr. John just kept trying to steer me towards Sheena throughout the entire investigation, trying to imply that she was behind it all, but I never found any evidence that she had anything to do with it.
No further questions.
Any follow-up, Ms. Rubel?
Detective Half. Are you sure you didn't speak with Titus Thomas on the phone regarding this investigation and his statements to you?
I don't recall speaking with him on the phone. I recall attempting to get into contact with him several times. I can't say 100% I didn't, but I noted every time I tried to reach out to him and contact him and would leave messages.
Okay. If Titus Thomas had a recording of you and him having a conversation, you wouldn't deny that that could have happened, correct?
That could have happened. Yeah, that's why I say I'm not 100% sure. Whatever. I mean, he may have a recording of it, but I don't recall the conversation.
Okay. And you don't recall Titus telling you anything related to Sheena telling him or having him involved in harassment to Mr. John?
Well, no, but once again, my suspect's Titus, and it appears throughout my entire investigation that that Titus may be trying to deflect from him. Like I said, he went to jail and had a restraining order against him. You know, maybe he thought once we got the search warrant, he was notified. He would have been notified when I did the search warrant for the IP address and the email account. He closed that email account days after the search warrant was executed through Google.
Okay, hold on a second. You're saying Titus, and you're saying he affirmatively took certain steps. So I want to break it down because you've got a lot of testimony coming out right now. You said that Titus was trying to deflect blame on Sheena. That was your opinion. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's an opinion, yes.
But you just testified that you had no phone conversations with Titus at all that you can recall, correct?
That I can recall, no.
What are you basing that opinion on, that Titus was trying to offshoot blame to Sheena?
Well, just the way everything went out with him being arrested, having a restraining order against him, then creating a Gmail account, which was likely him.
Okay, wait a second. So break it down. Your opinion that Titus was trying to push blame onto Sheena was because of a criminal, a TPO that was against Titus?
Well, yeah, if he's got a restraining order against him and he's continuing to contact Banu and harass her, then he's going to be in violation of that order. So if through my record, through my investigation, I've tied all these harassing messages from the email address back to him, now he's going to have to, you know, make amends, I guess, with Jodish or whoever and try to deflect it. So.
Okay, let's break that down. You just said that you traced the email address for the harassing messages to Titus Thomas. But when you previously testified, you said that Sheer Puva emailed the one I tendered into evidence, that you actually traced it to an IP address that you couldn't tell who had sent the messages. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. Not 100%. It was the business that Titus runs.
Oh, is your testimony that Titus actually still runs that business? You had some type of information?
I don't know if
that
he
says?
still runs it or not.
Okay,
This
what I'm
is
trying
what
to.
Jodish told me.
Okay, I'm asking you about your personal observations from your investigation, trying to remain as objective as possible. You testified that you believe that Titus was trying to place blame on Sheena for his actions. But you didn't have any, from your memory, any communications with Titus whatsoever where he was trying to, or that you could authenticate that he was pointing the finger at Sheena. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. And you don't have any information that you obtained that says it was Titus sending emails from the Sherpuva email address where you sent the search warrant. Is that correct?
I can't say 100%, no.
Can you say with any certainty? Actually, let's forget 100%. When you sent a search warrant, did you have any information as to who was behind the random email address?
Well, are you asking? I know that Titus took the letter connection from Banu when she was injured in hospital. The Gmail account that these harassing communications was coming from was created at the letter connection, the business that's in Stafford, Texas, that was owned or operated or managed by Banu and Titus. So during this time, the email address was created through this IP address, the bogus email address. The name on the account for the IP address is Joe Matthew. Jodish is the one that told me about Titus being at the letter connection. And I
Do you know
said
when,
that the
though?
account was, I'm sorry?
Do you know at what point Binu Monsi, if any, no longer owns possession or owned that business letter connection?
I don't know the exact dates.
Okay, so you don't know whether or not this was no longer owned by Binu Monsi when these alleged communications came in?
No, I don't.
Okay, when in your investigation and your subpoena, did you come up with anybody other than Joe Matthews as the owner or identification for the IP address?
No.
Is it an open access package, et cetera, type of facility with Wi-Fi?
That I don't know. I was actually out that way a few months ago, and when I got home, I thought, man, I wish I'd have gone by and looked at that place. But
Oh,
unfortunately, I didn't.
okay. All right. So do you, based on the information that you actually reviewed and you obtained from subpoena, do you have any basis to rely on to say that Titus sent these emails?
He's the only one that would have any motive. So that's what it's based on, is who would have motive to do this.
How have you assessed whether or not Sheena Mole Phillip would have had any motive?
Well, because in all of the emails, it's threatening for Jodish not to marry Banu, that he should marry Keantha instead. And I just can't see what motive Sheena would have for him to marry one person over the other. It just doesn't make sense to me why she would care one way or the other who he married. Titus, he's already got an ongoing feud with Banu, and he was arrested because of it. He's got a restraining order because of it. So if he wants to continue to harass her, maybe he didn't know we'd be able to trace email accounts and things, but this was obviously an email account that was set up as a bogus account, and it was used to send harassing messages to Banu.
Okay.
He's the only one in this equation, with the exception of Key. I don't know, maybe she still has feelings for Jodish and wants to marry him instead. I don't know, but I couldn't see any motive for Sheena to be doing this. All the motive came back to Titus, and on maybe an off chance Key if she still had feelings for Jodish, but Titus certainly.
You said nobody else had motive except Titus. Why was Steffi harassing these people then?
He said, well, I don't know that he wasn't threatening. He just wanted to talk to Banu, I guess, to tell her about Jodish and how he treated Sheena is what he told me. So I don't know that he would have any motive to make Joe DeShmary key over Benu or either one of them, really.
But you did have a conversation with Steffi, and his testimony was that he was trying to get in touch with Binu and he to keep them from marrying Jothish. Is it Mr. John? Is that?
Well, I don't know that he wanted to keep them from marrying them. He wanted them to know what kind of man he was. And I don't know.
Who
I
is
didn't delve
Steffi
into that.
Lawrence? Who is Steffi Lawrence related to these people? Is that a relative of Mr. John? How would he even know who all these people are? Binu Monsi, Key, Miss Phillip.
I don't believe he's a relative. I believe he was a moderator in the divorce when Sheena and Jodish got a divorce.
Okay, so Steffi Lawrence had communications with Miss Phillip and Mr. John during the breakdown of their marriage. Is that accurate?
Yeah, based on what he told me on the phone call, I believe that would be accurate.
And then he, on his own, decided to reach out to these two other women to try to tell them all the bad conduct of Mr. John?
That's the way it appears.
What's his motivation?
I don't know.
Did Steffi Lawrence know Titus Thomas?
I don't know.
That's all I have.
Anything
Last
else?
question, Your Honor, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Mr. Detective Half, can you in any way tie Steffi Lawrence's communications to Ms. Phillip?
No.
No further questions.
Anything else?
Detective Half, would your opinion of that change if you had Miss Phillips' phone records that show her in direct contact with Steffi Lawrence or Titus Thomas?
I did actually do a search warrant for her records, and I was unable to locate any data that would tie all that together.
Did you search
I can-
for? I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you finished?
Well, that I can recall, I would have, had I found any, I'd have made a note, but I did get the records back. I did a search warrant for her phone records as well. And I don't believe that provided a whole lot of information because of the time that had lapsed before I could get the search warrant done. But I would have made a note if something, and I would have followed up had something been there of value that needed to be followed up on.
Are you able to get the content of WhatsApp communications from a phone number through a search warrant?
It's hit and miss with that. It's like Snapchat. Sometimes we're lucky and we get stuff, but the majority of the time, no.
Are you able to get any phone calls or phone records through WhatsApp when you send a criminal search warrant?
I've not personally done a search warrant for WhatsApp. I've just based that on what I've been told by some of the other detectives that have tried to get information from them, that they've been unsuccessful most of the time with that.
So when you say you sent a search warrant for her phone records, you just use whatever her carrier is, like AT&T, and sent a warrant through that to the phone number, and it would be whatever the carrier maintained.
Correct. That's I take the phone number, I find out who the carrier is. I do a search warrant through that carrier. I request all the information that they've got on it, location data, messaging, cloud information, all of that. And sometimes I'm successful and can track that even through third-party stuff, and other times not. Different carriers keep different things.
Okay, thank you.
One last follow-up. With respect to these WhatsApp sorts of things, are you able, is it like?
Was there anything WhatsApp that was sent here? Are
I'm
we just
sorry,
curious-
Judge, can you,
I'm just curious, is there anything that's been sent through WhatsApp, or are we just seeing what he can do? I'm just curious.
Well, he testified he sent a search warrant for her phone records. I was trying to clarify the limitation of what he was able to obtain or not
Okay.
obtain,
Okay.
because I do have some phone records that I'm going to tender in later, but
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to clarify when he said he sent it, what the parameters were of what he
Okay.
had access to or what he didn't have access to.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Tannen.
Is it possible, is tracing like WhatsApp sort of like tracing the IDs on phones? There's a lot of spoofing, if you know, or
Well, I don't know. With electronics, anybody can create any name pretty much and call them what they want to. But I've not dealt with WhatsApp, so I really can't testify to that.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Detective F. No further questions.
No further questions.
All
This
right.
witness can be excused.
Thank you so much, Detective. Stay safe up there.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you. Okay, how long does everybody need for a lunch break? You're still under oath. Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. John, and Your Honor, I'm going to tender some exhibits here quickly. And I'm not sure how the court wants to handle this. I guess the Judge Schwall already ruled on this. There are Bank of America records that we sent a notice of intent to tender, and that was the pretrial issue with Judge Schwall, that he admitted the phone records, the Bank of America records, and then they were Kinco records from Miss Phillips' employer that we received. They were self-authenticated documents. So I'm just going to tender some exhibits. I'm going to list some exhibits that are self-authenticated to go ahead and tender into the record.
All right, that's fine.
Okay, I'm going to tender F30, the Mother's Bank of America account ending 5432 from April 27th of 18 to January 26th of 19. I tender F34, Mother's Bank of America account ending 7632. It's the cash deposits. F35, Mother's Bank of America 0801 cash deposit slips from December of 19 to January of 2020. Mother's Bank of America account ending 9968 from September of 18 to August of 20. Mother's Bank of America account ending 1380 or 6404 or 4861 or 1569. I believe the account changed throughout the periods.
Is that 37?
37, F37, yes.
Okay.
F46 is Mother's Bank of America credit card statements ending in 5432. And then Mother's AT&T phone records, F47.
Judge, the only thing we have on the phone records is that, again, they were not introduced by, there's no custodian certificate. That said, the other judge, Judge Schwall, admitted them. However, a recent clarification was issued by AT&T to Andrew DeSautel of Ms. Rubel's firm. So that if we're including the phone records, we would ask that the clarification also be included.
I'm trying to understand. You're saying there's a clarification to Drew in my firm?
Yes. It was
Okay,
sent to-
well, if there's additional information, Mr. Tannen, that you want to submit as far as AT&T phone records, as part of, as a part of your case, you can do that. I'm not sure what you're referring to, because what I have is the entire AT&T package that we sent the notice of intent to tender for those records, and the court has already admitted those records. Judge Schwall did.
Right, and I'm fine with those records being admitted so long as they're supplemented by the further AT&T clarification provided to your firm. Andrew DeSautel, I believe, was the attorney of record at the time the original subpoena was issued, and it went to him.
I don't have a response to that because I'm not sure what he's referring to, Your Honor, and these records have already been admitted. So,
Mr. Tannen, did you get additional information?
Ma'am, will you repeat that? I'm so sorry.
Did you get additional information?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I was copied on the letter to Mr. DeSautel of Ms. Rubel's firm.
what date and time are you talking about? I mean, Mr. DeSautel isn't counsel of record, so that's my struggle. Is I've been the attorney of record in this case since nearly September of 2020.
Ma'am, I don't understand how it worked at your firm. Maybe they followed up with the subpoena. I really don't know. But it's from the same folks. And if we're admitting your stuff without the custodian certification, and it's coming to your firm, not me, and I'm just copied on it, I want to be able to introduce it.
Well, you can
Um,
introduce it,
okay.
Mr. Tannen.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
and if there is something that you want introduced as evidence, Mr. Tannen, what happens is that you actually introduce it as an exhibit that you're going to present for your part of the case. I have no idea what you're talking about. So at this point, I'm just asking to admit the AT&T phone records that were provided to me. I'm just tendering, excuse me, not asking to admit, I am tendering
And I'm saying that the
F47.
tender should be complete, not partial, because the follow-up was issued to you or to your firm, I should say.
Well, Mr. Tannen, if you want to tender them, I'm sure she's probably not going to object. If you don't mind emailing them to her. I do know one thing, that Mayor Winthrop is pretty big. I think they have several offices. I don't know if they communicate very well. Maybe if your office wants to forward them to her.
How should we do that? Just, again, taking in the limits of my technical knowledge.
I think Ms. Carlson's probably help you out. She said it looks like she may have more.
You're bowing out too, coward.
She seems like she could probably help with the technology.
Okay, Misty, will you please, Misty's sitting here with me and she's going to send it however Ms. Rubel.
Yeah, I probably don't have it either, Ms. Carlson.
My response to that is, there was a question as to the completeness of the records, then that was something that should have been brought up or presented in Judge Swall prior to those records already being admitted into the evidence. And just without me knowing what it is, I can't understand whether that is proper or not, or whether it was received or not. I can tell you we do try to immediately share information between cases, but.
Mr. Taylor, let her finish talking, so at least let her get a chance to look at them if somebody.
Sure. And it, just so you know, it came after the original hearing. It came on May 5th. To Judge and Counsel, yes. Judge, do you have Judge Manning's email? Okay, so she's going to blip it over.
Okay.
Judge, I don't know what the screen is, but like I know it's a fake background, but it's kind of like you're half the disappearing woman when you turn on.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to be still, but yeah, I'm good.
Okay. We just sent it.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not at the courthouse today, so. Thank you, Ms. Carlson.
Y'all receive it?
I'm looking at the.
This garbage stuff up there.
When is this sent?
Where is it at now? The mouse clicker thing.
Yeah, I have an objection to these communications. Whatever this is involves Ms. Phillips sending contact to AT&T after the second day of the hearing. And I have no idea who this is sent to or where this information came from. But I do know attached to this correspondence is an email from Miss Phillip. I don't even know who it is. It's an email address with AT&T on it. So I haven't had the ability to question or otherwise speak with anybody that sent this communication to tell whether this is authentic or not, one, and two, to be able to further ask questions related to whatever they're claiming is or isn't a part of their fix. But I've got concerns the fact that this allegedly came in on May 5th after the hearing already started regarding records that were already admitted.
This appears to be a letter from the counsel from India that sent something.
An Indian letter?
From India. It says, Jaya Prakash on there, the response down there at the second page or third page. Or whoever this is, retained by Mary George or mom or something.
Yeah, there's even more hearsay in this. And this is the witness. This is apparently, I guess this makes sense. This is the fact witness that Mr. Tannen wants to introduce into court. And this is all hearsay. I'm objecting to this. And this is information that was a part from AT&T as a part of records. This is like one-sided communication with, I'm presuming, an AT&T representative. I wasn't even sent the information, which is kind of concerning as well. If Mr. Tannen intended to tender this into evidence, he could have provided it to me prior to right to this minute. If he thought that there was a reason for me to fix AT&T records after the court had already admitted them, or, I mean, this is just essentially second bite at the apple, or another multiple people trying to influence whatever is or isn't a part of a subpoena package that I received. I don't even.
But hold on, because
I'm sorry, Judge. Actually, what was labeled that is the incorrect letter. There was actually a direct letter from AT&T to Andrew Desautels, and that's what I'm trying to forward over to you all. My apologies if you'll just give me a minute to send that over.
And I still object to that, Your Honor. I'm objecting to it. I don't know what information was received or not received.
Everything, Judge, except when her own documents violate the rules.
one at a time. All right, let's go ahead and talk. Let's go ahead with this. We're going to talk about that. You can try that later. Well, let's go ahead.
Okay.
Burning daylight.
Right.
Okay.
Right now, I'm going to allow in whatever Judge Schwall allowed in. I'm not going to overturn anything Judge Schwall did.
So with that said, Mr. John, I had previously showed you F5. Let me get that back up on the screen. Is F5 a true and accurate F5 a true and accurate copy of your demonstrative of expenses for the minor children based on Miss Phillips' Bank of America statements,
Yes.
financial accounts, and credit cards?
Yes.
Tender F5.
Can you hear me?
Not you, Mr. John. It's Mr. Tannen's response.
No objection, Your Honor, if it's for demonstrative purposes only.
It's a demonstrative, Your Honor. It's just a
It's a-
summary, demonstrative summary.
Okay, submitted.
Okay. Actually, sorry, I didn't mean to undo that. Based on these financial records, what was, if anything, the average monthly that the children were incurring for, quote, educational expenses?
Average per month was $261.01 or 01 cents per month.
Okay. And based on those records, what was the average they were incurring for what would appear to be piano lessons per month?
$148.50.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I've marked as F13. Is this a true and accurate copy of the final judgment decree of divorce between you and Ms. Phillip?
Yes.
I'm going to scroll all the way through the judge's signature.
That's correct.
It's under 13.
No objection.
It's admitted.
Okay. Pursuant to the judge's final judgment decree, how much were you paying per month in alimony to Ms. Phillip?
$1,500 a month,
For how long?
48 consecutive months, starting from December 15 of 2016. So that means it will end by November 14 of 2020.
Okay. And did you make, in fact, those alimony payments at $1,500 a month each month to Ms. Phillip?
Yes.
Did you have a choice on whether or not those alimony payments were made?
No, it was income deduction from my employer's payroll, or
Okay.
from my payroll, from my employer's payroll department. Yeah,
Okay.
income deduction. Yeah.
And at what point or what conditions, if any, did your alimony obligation stop to Ms. Phillip?
It didn't stop until Judge Schwal or the 48 consecutive month ended, but still I had to get a court order to stop it. So
Was Ms. Go ahead.
it was deducted until I believe January of 2021. I may be wrong, but I had to get an order to. I reached out to my employer asking them to stop it, but they said since there is no clear date written there in this order, they cannot do that until a temporary court order is presented to them. So once I got the temporary court order issued, I believe it was issued on Jan 6th of 2021, and then I handed it over to my payroll department, and then they stopped collecting or withdrawing the $1,500 from my account, from my paycheck.
From your paycheck.
Yes.
Did Ms. Phillip return to you, refund to you this $1,500 a month that she received after November 15th of 2020?
She did. There is a slight variation, I believe around $49, where she still need to pay me, but I just didn't question it.
Do you know whether or not the temporary order required her to reimburse you any improper withholdings from the income deduction order?
Yes, she is supposed to give the full amount back.
But she still hasn't provided that full amount to you. Is that accurate?
No, there is a balance.
Okay. Okay, talk to me. How do you know Father Matthew?
So Father Matthew, the very first time he contacted me is in 2015, I believe, or 2016. He reached out to me asking whether, he wanted me to talk to me about the divorce going on with Miss Phillip, and I denied it. So that was a very brief conversation in 2016. Then in 2019, there was so much harassment going on with myself, Binu Mohansi, and Kirtana. There were emails, witchcraft items being packets, and mails, etc., being sent to me, really trashy emails, phone calls threatening, etc. So 2018 end to 2019 and mid of 2020 was crazy for me. There's so much harassment and threats happening to me. And so what I did is obviously I reached out to Detective Half. Binu Mohansi reached out to Detective Half. Kirtana reached out to Detective Half. I also wanted to really find who is behind this. So I was giving all the information I was receiving to Detective Half. And then in 2019 June, Binu Mohansi she was the person who was mostly being harassed. So while we were talking, I knew that Miss Phillip goes to Father Matthew's church, and maybe a registered member. So normally it's a culture in in the Catholic community. If there is an issue, we try to go to the priest. and asked to intervene. So as a parallel thing to the detective's investigation, I asked Binu Monsi whether she could reach out to Father Matthew and talk about and intervene and resolve whatever is going on, right? So we didn't know who it is. So we had some suspicion, but we didn't know who it is. So Binu Monsi reached out to Father Matthew. Then the next thing I know is Binu Monsi contacted me and said,
Objection, hearsay.
She was a witness that already
she's a witness.
testified.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So Binu
Mr.
Monsi,
John, stop. When somebody objects, you don't talk. The lawyers talk, and they talk one at a time, okay?
sorry, Your Honor.
That's okay.
I understand.
Go
I
ahead.
understand. Yeah. So Binu Monsi contacted me back and talked about the conversation she had with the Father Matthew about Sabu as a person and Father Matthew's involvement, Father Matthew arranging a secret marriage, etc. And then one of the things Father Matthew asked Binu to do is to meet him in his church in Loganville so that he can try to resolve it. And there was also one condition from Father Matthew: keep me away from it. He didn't want me to be involved in it all. And he arranged a date. It was, I believe, June 28th. It's a Friday. Father Matthew arranged a meeting between Binu Monsi and this person, Sabu, in his church. And I live in Alpharetta. Binu was living in Roswell at that time. So Loganville is almost 1.5 hours away from here. So I kind of offered to drop her to the church, Binu Monsi to the church. So that.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry.
Did Binu Monsi have a driver's license at that time? Could she drive?
She cannot, because after her accident in October 2018, she had a major accident, and there onward she doesn't drive.
Okay, at all? She doesn't drive at all?
She doesn't drive at all. She's scared to
Okay.
drive. Yeah. It was
Okay,
a
go
major
ahead.
accident.
Continue your
Sorry.
testimony.
Yeah, so it was Binu Monsi, her roommate Reba Matthew, and myself. 3 of us went to Father Matthew's church in Loganville on a Friday. And so I dropped Binu Monsi around 6 p.m. to his church. There's a Friday evening, there is a mass. So I wanted to drop her to the mass, and I wanted to hide because Father Matthew didn't want me to be there. So what I did is, I dropped her and I was hiding. And then her roommate Reba Matthew basically said, instead of waiting here through the mass, and then after all those things, let's go get some coffee to drink. So we went to a Starbucks, Googling where the nearest Starbucks is. We went to that Starbucks and we had coffee and came back. By then, Binu Monsi met with the Father Matthew and came out.
Okay.
And that's one thing. And then after that,
hold on, Mr. John. Let me do a favor. Let Miss Rubel, okay? If I were to ask you what time it is, I do not want to hear how to build the clock. I just want to know what time it is, okay? So let Miss Rubel walk you through this.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Ready? Thank you. Okay. Jothish, I'm going to show you what I've marked as F14. Is this a true and accurate copy of your Discover Card statement for the period June 27th to July 26th of 2019?
Yes,
This is your transaction log. Is that accurate?
that's correct.
I tender F14.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Submitted.
You testified that you went to a Starbucks on June 28th of 2019 in Loganville.
Yeah, there was no Starbucks near the church. So the nearest one was in Snellville, and it is inside a Kroger grocery store. So
That's how to
where
build the clock, Mr. John. That's how to build the clock.
Sorry.
Just the time. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
What is this, if you recall, what is this transaction from June 28th of 2019?
That is the transaction of buying coffee from that store.
Thank you. All right. Did you have any communications with Detective Half at any point?
Yes. I met with the detective half in, I think, May or June 2020 in his office parking lot because we couldn't go inside due to COVID, and I handed over a lot of information to him or evidence to him.
Okay. Were you receiving at any point messages, harassing email messages?
Yes, I got over 150 harassing, threatening, stalking, nasty emails.
I'm going to show you what's already been tendered in the record as F40. Is F40 one of those emails that you received?
Yes,
And who is Key?
he is Kirtana Srinath. She was a neighbor to me in the same apartment complex.
Who is
Speak
Ann?
up, sir. Yes, speak up, Mr. John.
Key is a neighbor to me. She was a neighbor to me in the apartment complex that
Okay.
I'm living right now.
Okay. And who is Ann?
And Joseph, her name is also Binu Monsi. Her official name is Binu Monsi. She, her contact information came as a marriage proposal to me in year 2016 from a matrimonial website.
Okay. Are you currently, or were you ever engaged to Miss Binu Monsi?
No,
Okay. Was the contact with Binu Monsi an initial step for an arranged marriage?
correct. So we were trying to do an arranged marriage, knowing each other and then try to do an arranged marriage.
Okay. Did you have any information as to where this content came from, why this email, somebody might be referring to specific times of when you were in the presence of Key?
Objection calls for speculation, Your Honor.
Dane, you want to rephrase?
I'm asking him whether he has any knowledge of certain times or things that are mentioned in this email.
Want to rephrase? Go ahead. You want to answer?
No, the only thing I know of is some of the information mentioned in the email, it kind of ties to some places where I was. So somebody was stalking me and providing this information or sending this email.
Okay. Did this email cause you, this email or any of the other emails cause you any concern for your safety?
Yes,
Why?
it is constantly threat messages and harassment to myself. I'm even scared to go out because if I come back, I'm seeing emails, random emails from random email IDs coming in saying like, oh, I saw you there, you are doing this, you are doing that, and that kind of things. It's bothering to me that somebody that I don't know why is always tracking me and trying to harass me. So it's a threat. I take it as a threat.
Are you still receiving communications or email communications or otherwise from unknown individuals about your whereabouts?
Not about the whereabouts. The communication recently changed to, after this case hearing started, it changed to apology email. So as a matter of fact, yesterday night, I got an apology email from a random ID, and it talks about, sorry for doing all this to you.
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor. Not in evidence. It's a document being offered for the truth.
I'm not actually offering the document for the truth of the matter asserted. I'm offering it to have state of mind and context for Mr. John. His testimony is that he doesn't know who it is. It's just these communications that keep coming to him, and that's why he's concerned for his
Mr. Lee.
safety.
I'll let him just talk about, I mean, how it's making him feel. Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
John.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, the last kind of email came on a thread was towards the end of December 2020. This is after Detective Half started investigating, and then Detective Half told me that he reached out to Steffi Lawrence, had a conversation, and then maybe within a week after, I got an email from an ID, Steffi Lawrence, I believe Steffi Lawrence 45 at gmail.com or something. I provided it as an evidence. And that email was purely apologizing to me for everything he did. I don't know whether it is, email ID, I cannot verify that, but there was an email with him apologizing. In that email, it talks about Father Matthew, Miss Phillips' involvement, etc. But I cannot verify that. So that was the last email. Then mostly it was apology emails coming to me from different sources.
Did you ever receive a copy of an email from Titus Thomas to Detective Half?
Yes, I did.
Did you ever have an opportunity to talk with Titus Thomas if Titus had sent the email to Detective Half?
Yes, he confirmed that he sent it.
Well, this has already been admitted into evidence from Detective Half's testimony. Is this a true and accurate copy of an email that you were copied on to Detective Half from Titus Thomas?
Yes.
Did you have any conversations with Titus where he confirmed that he had sent this email?
Yes, he confirmed that it is his email ID and he sent that email.
I didn't hear the last 4 words of what he said. I have yet to confirm this is his email, and that's all I heard.
And he sent it.
Thank you.
Mr. John, you really got to not drop your voice.
I'm trying, Your Honor. Sorry about that.
Okay. Did you receive any communications from Steffi Lawrence during or prior to this litigation or during this litigation?
Yes.
What was that?
So first he contacted me in 2015, acting like a mediator for Ms.
Objection,
Phillips.
Your Honor, relevance and objection, again, hearsay,
He is a witness.
it's 2015.
Hold on. Well, one, I think it's relevant to understand why and motivation of Steffi Lawrence being involved, considering that he was also contacted by the criminal investigator related to harassment. And this goes into as well, Ms. Phillip has claims of harassment against my client, contempt claims for all of these allegations. And I need to show that there is veracity to these statements.
2015,
what's
Your
the-
Honor.
Yeah, why do we need to go
That's-
back to 2015, Mr. Rule?
They weren't
The
divorced.
context of that's when he initially met Steffi Lawrence and his involvement with the parties.
So, Mr. Tannen, when you make your objection, I hear it. I got it. That's why they give me this. I got it.
Got it.
So why 2015? Why not 1982, Ms. Rule? I mean, why don't we go back to 64? Or why don't we go back to?
The context of when or how, and I'm not going into detail of the communications, but the context of how both parties know Steffi Lawrence is relevant.
So we can get to that really quick, right? And fast forward.
Absolutely. Mr. John, how do you know Steffi Lawrence?
Steffi Lawrence contacted me on 2015 as the first time as a mediator to our marriage issues.
Did you have any meetings with him at that point?
Yes, we spoke probably 3-4 times.
Did you have any meetings with Miss Phillip and Steffi Lawrence at that time?
Not together.
Okay. When was the next contact that you had with Steffi, if any?
I got a couple of threat emails from him between 2019 and 2020. It was a random call coming to me. but I could recognize his voice.
When you say it was a random call coming to you, clarify that.
So one thing I noticed is many of these are done through Google number. Anybody could create a Google number, a Google phone number. So which is not verifiable. And that's what I was getting. So I get a unknown, either unknown call number, a call from an unknown number or an unidentified person. But I could hear the voice and figure out who it is.
When you received these phone calls, were you able to hear a voice or speak with somebody on the other phone to identify who it was?
Yes, I could recognize it is Steffi Lawrence.
Okay. And did you share that information with Detective Half?
Yes.
Okay.
And if I could.
Nope. Stand by. Let's see what she has to say.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I've marked as F15. Did you have an opportunity to review Miss Phillips? Wrong folder. Miss Phillips' financial records related to cash deposits she's made into her bank account?
Yes.
This is F15. Now, the entirety of these statements have already been tendered. So tell me what F15 is a conglomerate of.
F15 is a summary of or snapshots of some of the cash deposits that I was able to identify from the discovery Miss Phillip shared with us as a part of this case.
Did Miss Phillip provide at any point an explanation of where she would have gotten thousands of dollars for cash deposits?
No.
Okay, a tender. Actually, a tender F15.
Any objections?
None.
Admitted.
So Miss Phillip deposited two $9,000 deposits into her bank account in 2020.
That's correct. That's what the statement shows.
Did you have any financial obligation to her to pay her cash in 2020?
No.
Of these amounts, I should say.
No.
Pay her $9,000 cash.
No.
Are you aware of whether or not she receives any cash payments for her employment?
No.
I'm going to show you what I've marked. As F16.
F16, did you say?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what she said.
Okay.
Is this a true and accurate copy of a Bank of America bank statement? I know the entirety has been already submitted from Miss Phillip from September of 2018. A snippet of October of 22 of 2018.
Yes, yes, with one correction. The statements were not provided by Miss Phillip. We subpoenaed to get that information from the bank.
Mr. John, focus, answer her question.
Sure. Sorry.
Sorry, he was trying to clarify that. I did say provided by Miss Phillip. The Bank of America financial records of Miss Phillip were provided through a subpoena request, not Miss Phillip. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
Although we requested that information from Miss Phillip, she did not provide that in discovery.
On all the
Yeah.
Bank of America records,
I'm sorry, Judge?
Ms. Rubel, on all the Bank of America records?
I believe so. I don't believe we received any Bank of America until after we sent the subpoena. I have
Okay,
an index of when that was provided.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, specifically looking at this exhibit, does Miss Phillip receive wire transfers from India?
It looks like it's wire transfer to India.
Okay, if I haven't
Or-
already, I'm tendering F16, and then I'm going to ask him some questions about it so the court can look at it.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Submitted.
The financial records, what did Miss Phillip not receive $4,600 from what appears to be her brother Shaji Phillip in 2018?
Yes, it appears that it is received by Ms. Phillip.
Was there any financial information provided by Miss Phillip as to where she might have withdrawn or where she might have deposited $115,000 in cash in July of 2020?
No, not yet. No information on it.
Were there any documents provided by Miss Phillip that would indicate where $140,731.40 went after the summer of 2020?
No, not shared.
To this day, do we have any idea what happened to the $140,000 that was in those financial accounts?
No.
F17. I'll show you what I've marked as F17. Is this a summary of transactions from Miss Phillip's financial accounts, credit cards, and otherwise provided in pursuant to our subpoena?
Yes.
You didn't hear the whole question. You touched your microphone and you covered what I could hear.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Is F17 a conglomerate of
You're still
transactions?
fading out when you do that.
Oh, I do? I still, okay. I'm just trying to listen better. Is F17 a conglomerate of financial transactions by Miss Phillip from 2017 to 2020 related to, or just financial transactions that she incurred in the summary state?
Yes.
I tender F17.
Judge, can be admitted for possibly demonstrative purposes only. It is a summary. It is obviously cut and paste. These are not the original. These are not the original documents.
The originals have already actually been tendered into evidence. It was my
Right.
F30, 34,
Could be
35, 30.
One at a time.
Is this
That's
for
fair.
demonstrative? Is this for a demonstrative, Ms. Rubel?
Sure. Yes, it doesn't need to be
Okay,
tendered. Okay. As a
Maybe-
demonstrative,
right. It's admitted as demonstrative. Go ahead.
thank you. Did Miss Phillip make transactions and pay immigration fees in the amount of $199 in November 30th of 2017?
That is what is shown on the statements she provided.
Okay. Did Miss Phillip have any travel expenses related to Texas?
That is what I see it on the credit card statement that she shared.
Did she have any hotel charges related to trips to Texas?
That is another item I identified on her credit card statements.
Does Miss Phillip have transactions for prepaid AT&T phones on her financial credit cards?
That is another entry I saw on her credit card statements that she shared during discovery.
Okay, help me understand this one. Vesta AT&T prepaid, October 17th of 2018.
So it appears that there are other burner cards, credit cards, or
Objection
prepaid.
calls for speculation, Your Honor.
Ms. Rubel?
My client can testify as to the charges, and I can clarify the question if I need to, but
Do you want to rephrase the question?
sure. Are there multiple transactions or payments for prepaid phones from different entities on Miss Phillips' credit card receipts?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
Do those payments occur in various periods of time from
Yes.
2017 through 2020
yes,
on multiple occasions?
that's correct.
The entities would include Metro PCS, is
Yes,
that correct?
yes,
AT&T,
yes,
Ultra Mobile,
yes,
Vesta?
yes.
Okay. Did Miss Phillip disclose any other cell phone number that she has used for herself in any communications with you during this litigation?
No, she changed her number at least 3 times, as far as I know, after the divorce, or twice or thrice.
Okay. And we have already tendered into the record her AT&T phone records related to the one number that you were using. Is that the number that you used to contact her and the children?
That's correct.
Were you provided any other phone number to reach Miss Phillip or the minor children?
No. There is one time Miss Phillip gave a number, but that I couldn't reach the children.
Okay. Did you have any communications with Mr. Tannen prior to hiring counsel in December of 2019?
Yes, I did.
And what were those communications?
So in November 2018, I got this contempt order. It served to me. And I reached out to Mr. Tannen immediately within a couple of weeks and scheduled an appointment with Mr. Tannen, met him in his office on December 20th of, 2019, December 20th of 2019. And I sat with him, walked him through all the issues listed in the contempt order.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I've marked as F18. Did Mr. Tannen send you an email after
Yes,
the meeting related to the terms of the alleged contempt action that he filed against you?
yes, he did.
Is this a true and accurate copy of the email that Mr. Tannen sent to you December 20th of 2019?
Correct.
When did you pay any attorney's fees to Mr. Tannen for Miss Phillips' contempt action?
Yes, he asked for $2,500 as his fee. So I paid it right there. Immediately, I wrote a check to him.
Okay. Did you pay alimony at that point to Miss Phillip?
Yes,
Did you execute a relationship affidavit in quitclaim deeds at Mr. Tannen's request?
yes, I signed 2 quitclaim deeds for Mr. Tannen, and I wasn't sure why I'm signing 2 deeds. And Mr. Tannen's explanation is that Ms. Phillip didn't know what forms to be signed, and he suggested just sign it, get this over with, and I just followed it so that I can be done with that issue at that time.
And did you deposit $3,172 in an expense or in an account for Miss Phillip for alleged medical expenses for the children?
Yes, I did.
Did you understand all of these payments that you made at Mr. Tannen's request to be conditional?
Yes,
So you weren't sure, you believed that you were making all these payments to him, and then it was still up to Mr. Tannen or Miss Phillip whether or not they would dismiss the contempt action?
not really, because I sat with Mr. Tannen and walked him through every issue listed. I also took a report from my company, from the Child Services Department, on the gap. So alimony and child support, it's gone from my income, my salary. And so there was a gap here and there. And so I consolidated a spreadsheet, including all the reports, and showed him exactly what happened and provided everything. And then that's where he agreed that, okay, he understands everything and he will dismiss the case if I pay all these things. And I paid everything that
Okay.
he asked for.
If I haven't already, attend our F18.
Any objection?
Absolutely no objection.
Admitted.
Did Mr. Tannen dismiss the action?
No.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as F19. Oops, hold on. Is this a true and accurate copy of the canceled check image for the check you wrote to Tannen Law Group on December 20th of 2019 in the amount of $2,500?
Yes.
Tender F19.
No objection.
Admitted.
Did Mr. Tannen have any contact with you after in December of 2019 or January of 2020 related to the contempt action?
I have reached out to Mr. Tannen many times asking to dismiss the case in December. And then twice I met him in the courthouse for status hearing. So I defended myself because I paid everything. So I didn't have any attorney, and I came to the court and twice in January for the 30-day status hearing, and then the 60-day status hearing. I came there defending myself or presenting myself, and so twice I met him there. Both cases, there was no reason provided why the case is not dismissed. All I heard was need more time.
Okay, let me ask you this. Did Mr. Tannen bring you a refund of your $2,500 for his attorney's fees
No,
after he didn't dismiss his contempt action?
no,
Has he ever repaid that money, that $2,500 that he asked you to pay to dismiss the contempt action?
he didn't.
Has Miss Phillip ever refunded the $2,500 that
No.
you were asked to pay for alleged attorney's fees to Mr. Tannen?
No.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as F20. Is this a true and accurate copy of the canceled check for alimony and child support alleged arrears that you paid Miss Phillip December 20th of 2019?
Yes.
Attender F20.
No objection.
Admitted.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as F21. Is this a true and accurate copy of a wire transfer that you made from your financial account to Miss Phillips' account on December 23rd, 2019, in the amount of $3,304?
Yes.
Was this transfer pursuant to the conversation that you had with Mr. Tannen?
Correct. This is the amount of arrears, for the orthodontics bill for my first daughter that I have received.
Okay.
Okay.
Orthodontics bill plus some additional bills that I have received after this contempt was filed. I paid everything.
Attender F21.
No objection.
Admitted.
Oops.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as F22. All of them. Is this a true and accurate copy of the quitclaim deeds that Mr. Tannen asked you to sign in his office?
Yes. That's
And
it.
the relationship affidavit he asked you to sign as well?
Yes.
It's under F-22.
No objection.
Submitted.
At this time, I would like to move for summary judgment on the alleged claims of contempt for alimony arrears, any claim for attorney's fees, or any allegation against my client for failure to cooperate with the final judgment decree for signature of deeds. All that petition is still pending.
Your Honor, we have
Yes.
amended the petition. We further noted that as set forth in the exhibit, which I'm not looking, my email basically exhibit, that the settlement was contingent upon Ms. Phillips' approval of the alimony amount, which was not obtained. Consequently, we would urge that the court reserve decision as to all issues as to the end of the trial, because the initial petition has been supplanted by the amended petition, and the evidence here shows by my own email that the issues at that time were not all settled.
And my response to that is, what issues are not resolved? What type of information or what allegations in that initial complaint related to the quitclaim deed transfers that you asked them to comply to, payment of any alleged alimony, payment of any alleged child support, payment of any alleged uncovered medical expenses as you pled in your petition prior to December? What specifically are you saying is still not addressed?
Judge, we're saying that the amended petition is still out there for the orthodontia fees on the contempt, and as well the modification action still exists. It's not unusual when a lawsuit is pending. There's also claims that's for the harassment and disparagement in the original contempt that are still pending. Consequently, we would urge the court not to grant the summary judgment motion.
So.
I'm asking, go ahead, Your
Let me
Honor.
ask you a question. In December, when he paid all of that, why wasn't it dismissed?
Judge, we still had the harassment and contempt proceedings going on. He didn't, the reason that my email makes clear is that there was an issue as to the alimony remaining outstanding at that point in time. And I had to say that subject to, and you'll see my email, the email specifically says, subject to Ms. Phillips' agreement on alimony, the case would be dismissed. However, we didn't get Ms. Phillips' agreement on the alimony. Consequently, the case went on. Moreover, the contempts pertaining to harassment were continuing.
I'm not asking for the court to rule in summary judgment for any alleged harassment claims, which were not filed until January of 2021. I'm asking the court to limit some of these issues and make a ruling on summary judgment for contempts that were claimed in December of 2019, proof of evidence of compliance with everything that was alleged, and payment of $2,500 in fees. I'm just trying to eliminate some issues. But if Mr. Tannen wants to keep it all until the judge rules, we preserve our issue of attorney's fees pursuant to 1962.
And we preserve ours per 915-14A and B, as well as 1962. So we're good.
So you're still wanting me to consider not ruling on your original petition of contempt, as all of those issues appeared that they were settled? I mean, are you saying he still didn't like purge of the quitclaim deeds and the other things that he owed? Are you still alleging he didn't pay for the orthodontic fees and write you all the checks? You're still asserting that those weren't paid?
Judge, I'm so sorry, but you moved a little away from the microphone.
Are you asserting that he didn't take care of everything that was,
At the time, right now, those issues have been resolved. However, at the time that the letter came out, the issues were not resolved. So if we want to remove those at this point, I am fine with doing that. But we always still had the other issues and other issues arising. Consequently, it's not usual in my practice or in most people's practices that I know to dismiss the claims. We simply don't have them pursued at the hearing, nor are we pursuing these at the hearing.
well, I mean, the contempt is still out there.
It's out there, but we're not pursuing it. So we'll get, you know what, Judge? It's
Okay,
out
so
there,
here's
but
what
we're
I
not-
don't want to hear anything else about.
Right.
I don't want to hear another word about this $3,172. All right.
Right.
I don't want to hear anything about this very first contempt that was filed, because it appears to me that he purged himself of everything in that initial contempt. I'm not talking about the amended contempt, but that initial contempt of the monies that were paid. It seems like he cleared that up with the wire transfer, signing a quick claim deed, and the pay. It seems like he settled that all with you.
Except for
after
the
that first-
alimony at that time, which was subsequently cured by the income deduction order about a year later.
I mean, whatever he owed you right there, you
Right.
gave him numbers and he paid. He paid whatever. So he paid what numbers you gave him. He did comply with those numbers. Am I right?
Except for the alimony at that time, which was subsequently cured.
Okay, so we got
What?
that.
Hold on a second, clarification. What alimony at that time, Mr. Tannen? What
The-
alimony are you claiming that my client was still in
At that
contempt?
time related to, ma'am, if you were on the case, you would have known, but your client was representing himself. There was still an issue as to approximately $775, which your client had a unique calculation basis for. However, it was in paid and it was in arrears. And I had to check with Ms. Rubel, excuse me, not with Ms. Phillip, as to whether or not she would settle on that. And that's why I put that caveat in the email. She would not settle on that $775, which was still owed at that time. And thus that had to continue. But the payments that your client made through the end of the term ultimately cured that.
So you're saying your number on here where it said $2,041 was wrong?
The number on there was the amount that he agreed to pay, subject to my client's getting my client to agree to that amount. And I never said that he agreed to that amount. She agreed to that amount.
Okay, so what I'm saying is what you pled in your initial contempt says an arrearage of $2,041.
The initial amount that was pled was not paid. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right, if we can move on. Go ahead, Ms. Rubel.
Sure. Now, what rest am I left off? I'm gonna have my paralegal mark as exhibit F51, the original petition for contempt filed against Mr. John on November 7th of 2019. Subject to that number appearing on the face of this document. Mr. John, is this a true and accurate copy of the petition for attachment citation of contempt from November 7th of 2019 that Ms. Phillip filed against you?
That's correct.
And that second page is blank, just the way it appeared.
Yeah.
I'm going to tender F51. I can have a sticker put on that if the court would allow it, and then I can publish it to the court and to Mr. Tannen. I know it's a part of one of the pleadings records, but I would like it to be an exhibit marked for the
No
witness to be able to testify.
It's submitted.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. John. Let me pull up the final judgment decree to help you here. Okay, 13. Was Miss Phillip required to return some gold rings to you pursuant to the final judgment decree?
Yes, yes,
Okay. This is F13 that's already been admitted into the record, so I'm just going to get to that point, that part. Where we go. One second. Well, let me ask you this. Did Miss Phillip return to you, until I get to that point, I'll identify it. Did Miss Phillip return to you the 8 gold rings that she was ordered to in the final judgment decree?
no, she, instead, she gave back ladies' rings instead of male finger rings that were gifted to me during.
Judge, I'm going to object. Ms. Rubel is mischaracterizing the prodigy settlement paragraph 10. Does not say gold rings. It simply says 8 finger rings.
The document can speak for itself. I can have the witness testify as what his understanding was, but specifically, was Miss Phillip ordered to return back to you the 8 finger rings gifted to you, which were in her possession?
Yes,
Were the 8 finger rings that were gifted to you pursuant to your marriage ceremony gold finger rings?
yes,
Did they fit on your fingers?
yes,
Did you indeed wear them during your marriage ceremony?
yes,
Do you have sufficient knowledge to identify whether or not the items that were returned by Miss Phillip were the 8 gold finger rings that you were gifted during your marriage ceremony?
yes, I have the knowledge to compare and see whether it is the correct rings or not.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I've marked as F23. This is a true and accurate copy of your wedding picture with Miss Phillip, in which you're wearing gold finger rings on your fingers.
Yes,
Are these the finger rings that were gifted to you for your marriage ceremony?
yes,
Were these rings returned to you by Miss Phillip?
no,
Attender F23.
Objections?
Objection, Your Honor.
They're admitted.
Did you testify as to these rings during your final hearing in front of Judge Barwick?
yes,
I'm going to show you what I've marked as F24. Randomly entered. Okay. What is F24?
so those are the rings I have received from Miss Phillip as part of the divorce settlement.
Okay. Who took this picture?
I took the picture.
Is this a true and accurate depiction of the items that you received in the shipping envelope from Miss Phillip?
Yes, and the labels are marked by, it was there when I received it, so I didn't alter anything.
The pink on the rings was labeled.
The pink labels on it.
Who wrote on the paper?
I don't know, it came like that.
Is that your handwriting, ladies' finger rings?
That is my handwriting.
Okay, is the number 1 above with a check mark original gold ring?
That
Your
is
handwriting.
that looks like it is an original gold ring, and it fits to my hand.
Okay, I tender F24.
Any objections?
No,
Submitted.
Okay, what are items 2 through 8?
2 to 8 looks like they are either cheap or knockout rings that won't fit into my hand, or it looks like it's ladies' rings. It's not, the items that came in the divorce case is all male finger rings. So those are not appearing to be male finger rings.
Okay. All righty, let me show you what I've marked. 25. What is F25?
So those are the rings I tried to put it on my hand and see, and just give another picture of it.
Did you take this picture?
I did,
Is that your hand?
with my hand, yes.
When did you take these photos?
Last year, sometime.
And what proximity to when the package was received did you take the photos?
The photos, sorry, the package was received in, I believe this December or Jan 2017. And then I took a video of it, the package as such being received, and it was given as an evidence. Nothing altered even before opening the package, and after opening the package, fully recorded.
All right, so I tender F25.
Objections?
we're going to object based on the fact that Ms. Phillip is going to testify those are not the rings that were returned.
What's the foundation of your objection?
You know what?
Is that the objection? He's lying?
Yep.
I will take judicial notice that both sides are going to say the other side is lying. However, I'm going to admit that because
Very
that's
good,
his lie, then her testimony will be her lie, and I'm the one that's going to figure out somewhere in the middle.
Truth. Very good guy.
All right.
Okay.
Usually it's pro se people that object to say she's lying or he's lying.
Mr. John, did you obtain or were you able to get an appraisal of the 8 wedding rings that were gifted to you that haven't been in your possession since the final judgment decree?
No, I cannot appraise something that I don't have, right? So that was a challenge I have.
Okay, I'm going to show you F26. What is this a picture of?
So this is a picture of the one ring I think is a original. And then I took that ring to a jewelry here, a gold jewelry here in Atlanta. And I asked them to appraise it. And they said, because the jewelry is from India, they cannot appraise it. So then the only option I had was to buy a similar ring from that jewelry so that I can show the value of that ring. So it is a comparison of that ring to the new ring that I purchased.
What is the old ring depicted here?
It's a gold ring that was received. It is old ring. That is the one that came with the packet.
Okay, well, I'm going to tender F26.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
It's admitted.
Okay, the ring on the left, the new ring, did I understand you correctly that that is one you purchased from the jeweler?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I've marked as F27. Tell me what this document is. Can you see that, Mr. John?
Yes, that document is the receipt from purchasing that gold ring to show the value, the current market value of a similar ring.
Okay, so I tender F27.
Any objections?
Objection, Your Honor.
Submitted.
So the new ring here on the left, you purchased for about $820.
That's correct.
Okay. But you don't have a value for this ring, the old ring on the right. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. I asked for the value. I actually went to 4 or 5 different gold jewelries. The challenge is, it's a technical challenge. The jewelry is from India, the old ring. So it will cost probably more to assess it. So they said, they cannot do that. And there should be some kind of, there is a symbol or a sign authenticating the ring towards the bottom or something for the jewelry here. Otherwise, they cannot appraise that. That's what I heard from them.
Okay. Am I understanding correctly that you are missing 7 gold finger rings?
That's correct.
And the value of those 7 rings that you present to the court is $820 times 7.
That's correct.
Is that roughly $5,740?
Yes.
And that value for the new ring is a ring that has no design on it whatsoever, just a straight gold band with nothing fancy.
Nothing fancy, very plain ring. Because the
Okay.
value goes up if it is more decorative, etc.
Okay. Who gifted you the rings in the wedding picture in F23?
My uncles, aunts, my friends, etc.
Okay. Has Miss Phillip made claims about the whereabouts of the alleged rings that you're wearing in your wedding photo during this litigation?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Sorry, has Miss Phillip made allegations as to a different location or where your alleged missing rings are during the litigation?
Yes, she did.
What are those allegations?
So one allegation I heard is that my mom has all those rings.
What's your mom's name?
Mary George.
When was,
Whose mom? Her mother or your mother?
I
My
just need
mother.
Okay. Mary George?
Yes.
okay, Mr. John. We're calling prior to interrupting your testimony from the witness, Detective Half. We took out a turn. You mentioned that in 2016, your father passed away.
Yes,
Did you go and see your mom in India at that point?
I did.
Did you go and stay in her residence at that point?
I did.
Did you have the opportunity to verify or otherwise discover whether the gold rings from your wedding were in her home at that time?
I did. So after my father passed away, I was there in India for almost 2 months. So I was trying to make sure that my mom is safe and everything is taken care. So as a part of that process, one thing I did is I took a bank locker for my mom so that she can keep all the valuables in the locker. I didn't want her to keep anything in the house because it's a.
Okay, sorry. You said bank locker. Is that also called the safe deposit box?
Safe deposit box, yeah.
Okay, continue.
So, so then I took that and then I worked with my mom to collect all the expensive items from the house. And my expectation was she had a lot of jewelry. For some reason, I thought she had a lot of jewelry. So while we were collecting everything, I couldn't find any jewelry that she has other than 2 or 3 bangles she was wearing and a chain. So I remember asking my mom, what happened to all your jewelry? She said she has no jewelry. So we didn't keep any jewelry in the locker or the safe deposit box. And the very next year when I returned to India, and she told me that she closed that locker. And I asked her why. She said, it's waste of money paying monthly fee for the locker, there is nothing expensive to keep in the locker. So at that time, she had, other than 2 bangles and a chain, there was nothing. I worked with her to collect all the expensive items and put it into the safe deposit box.
When you went for your father's funeral and when he passed away, was that before or after you had the final hearing with Judge Barwick?
It was before.
So after you were there, you had a final hearing in front of Judge Barwick and asked for the return of these rings.
Yes,
And that was ordered by Judge Barwick.
that's correct.
Do you have any idea why your mom might testify or otherwise present testimony saying that the rings are in her possession?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'm just asking if he has any knowledge. I'm not saying he does or he doesn't, but I mean,
That's my idea.
Well, if he has any knowledge, he can talk about his knowledge.
Yes, I do have the knowledge of it. So one of the tough situations I'm facing is my mom, after my dad passed away, she's going through mental and physical harassment, and she's not in a stable state.
stop. What do you mean by your mom is not in a stable state? Please elaborate.
So she, after my dad passed away, she is mentally not stable, unfortunately. I had to take her for treatment. She stayed with my sister for over 6 months to make sure that she's stable. And unfortunately, what is happening that I'm aware of is Miss Philippines is constantly in touch with my mom, providing misleading information to her, such as my kids are not provided with what they need. They do not have enough food. I'm not paying anything to them, etc. So it is a tough situation I'm facing. And my mom, she is a very traditional Catholic person who doesn't agree to divorce. Unfortunately, we had to go through a divorce, and per her uber religious belief, divorce is not unacceptable to her. So she has some anger to me for going through a divorce.
Okay. All right. I'm going to show you what I've marked as F28. Is this a true and accurate copy of an affidavit that Ms. Phillip provided in this action dated December 29th of 2020,
Yes,
related to what she claims to be returning the 8 rings that that she was ordered to return?
yeah, it claims to be, yes.
I tender F28.
Any objections?
None.
It's admitted.
In fact, Ms. Phillip filed a motion for summary judgment, and that's what this affidavit is in support of for these claimed 8 rings that she returned to you. Is that accurate?
Sorry, can you please repeat it?
Sorry, Ms. Phillip filed a motion for summary judgment on this issue of the return of the 8 gold finger rings, submitting this affidavit in this action. Is that correct?
Yes,
We held a hearing, had a hearing on that motion for summary judgment in front of Judge Schwall, did we not?
yes.
We
And
did
Judge
not
Schwall,
actually have a hearing, Judge.
All right, so if you probably say objection first, then.
Objection, Your Honor, we did not have a hearing. I was there.
I have a copy of a rule nisi, and we all attended a motion for summary judgment hearing.
Judge did not hear the motion, and we proceeded straight to trial. He didn't deny it at all. He didn't hear it at all. He just proceeded straight to trial.
I would disagree with that assertion. However, I will let the court decide whether or not Judge Schwall entertained the motion for summary judgment or not and held a hearing, and I will proffer the rule nisi, although it's part of the court record.
Offer away.
Okay, so you want to admit the rule nisi and affidavit?
I'm admitting the affidavit, which is F28.
No problem.
I'd
Your
ask
Honor.
the court to take judicial notice of the rule nisi that issued that set the hearing down on a motion for summary judgment. And that no order regarding that, well, actually that a hearing was held on that matter.
I'll take judicial notice of the nisi and I'll admit F28.
Thank you. Even assuming arguendo that Judge Swell did not enter an order denying Ms. Phillips' motion for summary judgment on the 8 rings, Judge Swell, after hearing Ms. Phillips' position, did not enter an order saying that she'd complied with the final judgment decree. Is that accurate?
Mr. John?
Yes.
We lost somebody. Who'd we lose? We lost your law partner, Mr. Tan. No, we lost we lost somebody here. Wait, we lost somebody. Mr. Rubel, I guess we lost, wait, we lost.
Oh, I've got
somebody.
Ally and Olivia on too. I think we still got
Okay.
everybody.
Partner.
Unless you lost the courtroom. Are the courtroom cameras still on?
Oh, those, okay, see, those are timing out. Okay, I was like, well, we lost somebody. Okay, that's fine with him. I'll let it.
That's what it is? Okay, just,
Go ahead.
you're right. We did have less people, but I think it's your 3 courtroom
Okay.
cameras.
Right, go ahead, sorry.
Okay. At some point, did Ms. Phillip file an amended petition for citation of contempt related to orthodontia payments for your other child?
Yes.
Okay, was that in January of 2021-ish?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about whether or not, or did you receive any email communication from Ms. Phillip that included receipts or any discussion about, and correct me, is it Maria or Julia that got
Julia.
Julia? Did you receive any email communications from Ms. Phillip about whether or not Julia should obtain braces prior to them, I guess, being put on Julia?
No. So the email actually came through my attorney at that time, Mr. DeSotel, and he forwarded that to me.
Sir, I don't mean to interrupt you. Please hold it closer to your mouth. Thank you.
Yeah, the email came through the attorney at that time, Mr. DeSotel.
Andrew DeSotel.
Andrew DeSotel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did Ms. Phillip provide you the receipts for any payment for braces for Julia at that time?
She did not. The attachments in that email were a contract proposal for the orthodontics treatment.
Okay. Were you able to speak with or obtain any information related to the orthodontic treatment for your daughter since August of 2020 to present?
No, I reached out to the orthodontics provider, the service provider, the dental office, and asked for it. And they said, they came back to me later. They took my request and came back to me saying that they are not allowed to provide any information to me. So till today, I haven't received an invoice from Ms. Phillip on the orthodontics charges.
Despite not receiving an invoice for the orthodontics charges, did you make a payment to Ms. Phillip in good faith related to those expenses?
Yes, with an abundance of caution, I made a payment and I haven't received the invoices. So I have the request to return that money.
Okay. So should Ms. Phillip not be able to prove the orthodontic expenses that were incurred for Julia? I'm going to show you what I marked as F29. Is this a true and accurate copy of the Zelle transfers that you made to Ms. Phillip
Yes.
on March 22nd of 2021
Yes.
and March 20th of 2021?
Yes. And the reason is, that app won't allow me to make a payment more than $2,000 a day. So I made one payment and then made another payment the next day.
Attender F29.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
It's admitted. So I'm going to give you guys a heads up. So we're going to stop at 5. for the court reporter. So just so y'all know, obviously it's gonna go a little bit later. I'll be looking at my calendar. Not sure who controls y'all's calendar, but just so you know.
Your Honor, may I? I'm sorry. May we take a courtesy break for 5 minutes?
Go ahead.
And
Yep.
also to just, you said 5 o'clock, right? Because I have to take certain medications at 7, so
Absolutely. Go
stop
ahead.
from being 60.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay.